Have you ever suspected that what S called justice nowadays might just be a well-disguised sham? If you clicked on this video, it's because something deep down tells you there's something off in this modern theater. And you're right to be skeptical. What we re-diving into here isn't a just empty criticism of the system. It is a revelation that comes from way back, straight from the mind of one of history's greatest thinkers, Plato. Yup, he already knew, centuries ahead of time, that so-called justice could become a convenient mask to hide the power, ego, and greed of those in charge. Plato lived in a time when Athens' democracy was celebrated but also full of cracks. He saw his mentor, Socrates, unjustly condemned by a system that claimed to be fair. That hit him hard, and it sparked everything he wrote about politics, power, and, of course, justice. For Plato, justice wasn't some deal between people. It wasn't whatever the majority decided. It was an inner harmony, an order of the soul. And what do we have today? We call justice whatever courts approve, whatever laws allow, even if those laws favor a few and crush the rest. If Plato came back today, he'd probably let out a bitter laugh seeing judges hide behind robes and legal codes. For him, real justice didn't depend on titles, degrees, or procedures. It came from within, from an alignment of reason, courage, and desire. The problem is, in our time, nobody's too worried about that soul harmony stuff. What matters is who has more clout, who can afford the best lawyers, who can sway public opinion. Remember the allegory of the cave? The one where people are trapped watching shadows on a wall, thinking that's reality? Well, Plato used that to show how most folks are deceived. And here's the kicker. Today, justice has become one of those shadows. We look at court rulings, headlines, politicians' speeches, and think that's the truth. But is it? Or are we all sitting at the back of the cave, clapping for shadows while the light of truth sits outside, ignored? Think about it. Why are so many innocent people locked up? Why do so many guilty ones walk free? It's not for lack of laws. It's because the system's learned to use the idea of justice as a front. Everything's nicely staged, looks good on paper, but deep down, it's a game of interests. And Plato warned us, when desires take over reason, when leaders aren't truly wise, chaos disguises itself as order. Now, here's something interesting. In the Republic, Plato describes an ideal city ruled by philosophers. Not because he was elitist, but because he knew only someone who seeks truth above all could judge justly. Today, leaders chase votes, money, power. Nobody cares about educating the soul. Nobody asks if they're in inner harmony. We kind of become a society of appearances, and the judicial system, right at the heart of it. This idea is scary, no doubt, because if modern justice is a lie, what's left for us? Plato would say, what's left is the search for truth. And that truth starts when we stop accepting things as they are, when we question what's sold as right. He believed the just wasn't what pleases the majority, but what preserves order within a person. And that, my friend, doesn't fit in a courtroom or a verdict. See how this changes everything? The way we view laws, trials, institutions. Plato flips it all upside down. He says justice isn't about punishing others, it's about fixing yourself inside. And when a society forgets that, it starts punishing the wrong people for the wrong reasons. Or worse, it starts protecting the guilty for the most convenient reasons. That's why this video matters. Not to point fingers, but to shine a light. Because if justice has become just another propaganda tool, we need to remember what it really means. And Plato can guide us there. He wasn't trying to please anyone. He wanted to touch the core. He wanted justice to be more than a concept, a way of living. Now, look around. Something's off. Laws shift with the wind. The powerful get slaps on the wrist. And the people? They keep waiting for justice, like waiting for rain in a desert. Is that just? Of course not. But it's exactly what Plato predicted. When justice is decided by whims and not wisdom, it dies a slow death. So, if you've made it this far, you've already taken a huge step, because questioning justice is the start of understanding the world. And Plato's on our side here. He doesn't hand you an easy answer. He shows you that real justice begins with you, not in courtrooms, not in legal codes, but in your soul. And that's the truth no one can hide. Plato believed that a city is a reflection of the human soul. If the soul is disordered, full of noise between reason, emotion, and desire, then the city, society, will mirror that chaos. Look around. Corruption, inequality, absurd court rulings. These aren't just system flaws, they're signs that the people who make up the system are also out of harmony. The problem with modern justice starts within each of us. Before it ever reaches the courts, it's already rotting in people's souls. For Plato, the ideal would be a government where those in charge don't want to rule. Sounds contradictory, right? But it makes sense. He said only someone who loves truth and has no attachment to power is worthy of governing. Now think, how many judges, politicians, or leaders do you know who fit that? Few, if any. Most chase power for the thrill of control, the prestige, the comfort, not for the pursuit of truth. So how can justice arise in an environment like that? Modern justice has become something technical, bogged down in bureaucracy but empty of meaning. Trials hinge on evidence, documents, and whoever can manipulate them best comes out on top. But Plato said truth isn't measured in paperwork. It's revealed in the essence, in the nature of being. And when the system only looks outward, ignoring what's true within, what it delivers is a facade of justice. Pretty on the outside, rotten within. Have you ever seen someone walk free just because they had a slick lawyer? Or someone get convicted without proof just because they crossed the wrong people? This stuff happens all the time. Plato would call it a distortion of the collective soul. When the desire to win trumps the desire to be just, the system corrupts. It stops protecting the weak and starts serving the interests of the strong. And here's the real irony. The word justice itself has become a weapon. Those in power use it to give their actions a veneer of morality. We delivered justice, they say. But did they? Or did they just dress up vengeance as virtue? For Plato, justice isn't imposed. It's earned. It's the fruit of balance, not force. In The Republic, he proposes 3 classes in society: rulers, guardians, and producers, each with their role, living in harmony. But here's a key detail. This division wasn't based on wealth, fame, or birth. It was based on the soul. Those with the most reason ruled. Those with the most courage protected. Those with the most desire worked. Simple, but powerful. It shows how he saw justice as a state of balance, not a tool for punishment. Today, all that's been lost. Politics is a stage, law is a theater, and the people watch from the front row, thinking it's all real. But as Plato said, the sensible world deceives. We're living in a cave of illusions where titles matter more than character, where appearance outweighs essence. And as long as that's true, real justice won't exist. But don't think Plato was a pessimist. Far from it. He believed it's possible to leave the cave, that we can educate the soul, seek truth, and one day achieve real justice. But it takes effort. It requires us to stop parroting what others say and start thinking for ourselves. Modern justice fails because it demands nothing of anyone. It just wants you to obey. So, what do we do about it? Plato would say, seek knowledge. Educate your soul. Be more rational than reactive. Question what's sold as right, because true justice begins when we stop living for others' opinions and start living for what is true. And that, friend, is what's most lacking in our time. If each of us sought to align our soul, reason, courage, and desire in balance, maybe we wouldn't need so many courts. Maybe justice would flow naturally in our relationships. But that's not what happens. because most people are still ruled by unchecked desires and passions. And that only breeds conflict, lies, injustice. So tell me, how can we expect a system to be just when it is built by people who are unjust to themselves? Plato saw this clearly. The system mirrors the souls that shape it, and as long as the collective soul is sick, no law can heal it. Justice doesn't spring from paper. It's born in the spirit. Without that, all we're left with is a performance. The lie behind modern justice isn't just in the courts. It's in the silence of those who see wrong and say nothing. It's in the passivity of those who accept rules without thinking. It's in the comfort of those who prefer a soothing lie to an uncomfortable truth. But Plato would say, those who love truth don't stay quiet, and that's why we need to keep thinking, questioning, because only then does the light leave the cave and start to shine for real. Plato said the greatest punishment for those who don't care about politics is to be ruled by those who do, in the worst way. What did he mean? That when we sit back pretending the system will fix itself, we re-handing our lives to people who only want to keep the game rigged in their favor. And justice in that game is just a decorative piece, a fancy name slapped onto dirty decisions. Let S be blunt. You can't trust a system that cares more about appearances than substance. Look at how court cases are set up. It's all about image, how the defendant dresses, how the lawyer spins the story, how the judge carries themselves. It's a theater, and on that stage, whoever has money buys a better script. Modern justice, far from Plato's ideal, has become a product, sold to the highest bidder. Do you see how serious this is? Because when justice becomes a product, the poor can't afford it. And when the poor can't afford it, the whole system loses credibility. That's when resentment, distrust, and apathy kick in. People start seeing the system as the enemy, not their protector. And Plato, once again, saw this coming. He said, when desire overpowers reason, the city gets sick. That's what we're living in, a sick city, a collective soul out of balance. This is where we need to pause and think, could the justice we seek outside actually be a lack of something within? Plato saw justice as the result of inner balance. If a person is guided by reason, they act with wisdom. If they're driven by desire, they act out of self-interest. And when everyone's chasing self-interest, no justice can survive. Check the news. Corruption after corruption. Scandals swept under the rug. Crimes ignored. Laws crafted to shield those already protected. This isn't an accident, it's a plan. A plan to keep the masses distracted while those at the top play at deciding what's right and wrong. Plato saw this in the sophists' speeches. Men who sold arguments, who taught how to win debates, not how to seek truth. Sound familiar? If we've traded truth for convenience, then justice has become a useful illusion. Something trotted out when it suits and ignored when it's inconvenient. The tragedy is that this has become normal. People have gotten used to living among lies, as if it's just how things are. Plato called this ignorance. Not a lack of information, but a refusal to see the light when it's right there, just outside the cave. Maybe the worst part is the passivity. Most people don't fight this fake sense of justice. They parrot canned phrases, obey unjust laws, follow leaders blindly. Why? Because thinking is hard. And Plato knew, philosophy unsettles. It strips away comfort, but it's the only thing that frees us from the lie. The only thing that shows what's truly just. Plato's answer wasn't easy. He didn't offer formulas, he proposed education. A slow, patient process of shaping the soul. Because an educated people, one that seeks truth, won't settle for a farce. And that's why the powerful fear philosophy, because it teaches you to see, and those who see don't accept being fooled. So what do we do with all this? We start small. Ask yourself, is what they're calling just really just? Is this decision everyone's cheering for fair or just convenient? we need to take off the blindfold. Understand that for Plato, justice wasn't about vengeance or punishment. It was about balance, about the order of the soul, about doing what's right even when no one's watching. If we want a just society, we need to be just people first. It's no use expecting the system to fix what we allow. True justice starts with the simple stuff. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't take advantage. Sounds small, but that's what builds a just soul. And a city full of just souls doesn't need absurd laws. But if nothing changes, if we keep living like this, Plato already had the answer. Injustice will become the norm, and justice a distant memory. We'll be ruled by people driven by desire, and we'll live in a world where appearances replace truth, where theater trumps essence, where justice, the real kind, will be just a philosophical echo in a time that chose darkness. And that, friend, is the greatest tragedy of all. If you liked this video, consider subscribing to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments.